H. Jackson antebellum reform period. There's no way you're going to be able to take notes on everything I covered today. But you have a list right here. Go ahead and take a second and take a look down it. If you're watching from home, take a look down it. Okay.
Is it recording? Yes.
It is recording. Nihar.
Say hi, people at home.
Good to see you. Thank you. Okay. Closing the door.
Hey, I know some of these groups.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about Unit 4, H. Jackson antebellum reform period. I've dropped a few dates on this timeline, but primarily working our way from the years of 1816 at the end of the War of 1812 until 1850-ish. Because 1850 is a somewhat unique, 1850 to 1860 is a somewhat unique era, in a large part because this is when kind of the rise of the Civil War is going to start. And so we would call this kind of the pre-war period. Sean, pick up one of those sheets as you come in. Okay, so there's really 7, I don't know how many I have, 3, 6, yeah, I got 7 of them. 7 isms of this time period, so I'll walk you through each of those, and then I'm just going to kind of roll through this one. Okay? All right, so nationalism is basically strengthening of the nation in relation to the states. It has multiple meanings. Obviously, it means like pride in your nation, but it also means kind of the rise of federal power in relation to the states. And there's a lot of things, as we'll talk about, we saw the federal government starting to get much more involved in the economy versus like state control and state power. Then we have sectionalism, which is the belief that, the rise of your section over the nation as a whole. So we see this obviously play out in the whole slavery issue as kind of there becomes a significant amount of conflict between the North and the South over the expansion of slavery into new territories. And then we talk about expansionism, right? As the country continues to grow, this is going to create more sectionalism, but it's also, this our nation's growing, nationalism to some degree rising. Transcendentalism occurs during this period. This is Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, and kind of the rise of kind of the rejection of the industrial age, which this was the first industrial revolution in American history too. And then that's industrialism. And then revivalism. This is our second Great Awakening in American history, the first being in the early 1700s, pre-Revolutionary War. This second Great Awakening creates, it has a huge impact, particularly on social movements in the United States. And many people would point to the Second Great Awakening and the revivalism actually causing the Civil War, because in a large part it also led to the rise of abolitionism and its role in kind of the Civil War. Okay. So, starting in 1860, James Monroe became President of the United States. He was the President during the era of good feelings. This is the time in which we only had one political party in the United States, and that was the Democratic-Republican Party. As you remember from last lecture, the Hartford Convention was the end of the Federalist Party. Doesn't mean the Federalist ideas don't live on through people like John Marshall and the Supreme Court, but Federalist Party as an individual entity is done, for the most part, by the year 1816. So we got one political party, and everyone in the 1820 election with Monroe, and then in the 1924 election is running as a Democratic-Republican. We also see this being a time period where there's like a growth in pro-nationalism America. It's great. We have artists drawing really great paintings, the Hudson River School of Artists. We have writers writing about the American frontier, people like James Fenimore Cooper, and this would be known as the Knickerbockers. We also have the rise of architecture, like the building of the United States Capitol Dome and these grand buildings in Washington, D.C. all kind of begin around this period after the War of 1812 and the burning of Washington, D.C. All these things kind of bring national pride. Also, in terms of our relation with other nations, we started to kind of establish ourselves, not being the country that just gets their crap taken from Great Britain and France, but we're actually signing treaties with Great Britain and France over things like, what do we do with the Great Lakes region? This would be the Convention of 1818. What do we do with territory along the north border? This would be the Rush-Bagot Treaty. Rush-Bagot Treaty was about the lakes, and then and then the Convention of 1818 was about like territory in the north east, and we're just kind of making these agreements over like what's going to happen. We felt like we have established ourselves as a strong national power. Now, another example of this playing out would obviously be the Adams-Onis Treaty. When slaves were escaping into Florida and Seminole Indians were coming into Georgia and Alabama and territory that we now controlled, we sent Andrew Jackson down in there to basically take care of the problem. He ends up capturing the Spanish governor, and we basically use now our newfound international power to work out a treaty with Spain to give us the rights to Florida. In response, we would kind of cede or give over control of like Texas, and we pay them for, we would get citizens to help pay them back for land that had been taken from them in Texas and other places. So you're just kind of seeing like America's establishing itself as an international power on a micro level, but we are. And another great example of this during James Monroe is obviously the Monroe Doctrine, where the United States says European powers don't try to come into our hemisphere anymore. This is our area, and the United States kind of becomes like the big brother, I would say more of an umpire of the Western Hemisphere, trying to prevent any Europeans from European countries from colonizing over there. And another thing that kind of created nationalism during this time, or strengthening of national power in relation to states, were some of the decisions by the Federalist Party, by John Marshall, who was the lone remaining Federalist member of government. And as the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, McCulloch v. Maryland, which said that the Bank of the United States was